I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to the Business Renovator. My real name is Phil Jilks, but I go by Coach Phil. Welcome, and if you're here live, fantastic. Really appreciate you being here today, and still appreciate you if you aren't able to watch this live and are watching it on a replay. If you just hashtag replay and let us know where you're watching it from, that would be brilliant. A couple of other things before we get started with today's guest and topic that I'm excited to hang out with Melanie and share some ideas and insights is remember to share this out with your community. And if you like what you're hearing and what you're learning, and you know somebody that has a message and you want to help them get the word out, let me know. Let's get them on the show. We're full up for this year, but there's always room next year. And if you have a question for a business coach, well, just hang on. Watch my sponsor. One of the ways to initiate the question to a business coach, whether it be myself or one of the other couple of hundred from around the globe, is to reach out and get our business scorecard. And you could get that from going to my website, which is coachphil.ca, and just look for the scorecard. It's free, no strings attached, and it'll give you some insights and ask you some questions about your business. And what a great time to do that. It's the end of the year, the beginning of a new one. And if you haven't planned for the future, why not start now? And it's free. I have a lovely guest, and we're going to talk about building energy and connections and communities. So energizing connections and communities. That's really what we're talking about today. But before I bring her on, I want to just share some insights about her travels, a little bit anyway, and then you'll learn more about her shortly. So after toasting her last day as a part-time entrepreneur who was a full-time corporate employee in 2005, she headed to Tahiti with a smile. Well, and she's got a beautiful smile. Her understanding of struggles to make the transition from dreamer or introvert and increase revenue as an entrepreneur or caregiver is real. She is in collaborations and a hybrid events strategist who loves helping dynamic COOs and direct sales leaders motivate talented teams to create conversations, build energizing connections, and attract business. Be visible with Mel teaches you how to become highly engaging so you stand out in every area of your life and live it whether it's live or virtual crowd, and connect with who matters most to you as you move from invisible to be visible to be profitable. Isn't that exciting? And she's also a board secretary and a gala committee co-chair for Fearless Hudson Valley. She loves raising funds for advocacy, education, and programs, and aimed towards the prevention of domestic and intimate partner violence, human trafficking, and dating violence. I'm going to bring her on because she's better than me at telling her who she is. So here she is. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Phil, and thank you so much for your warm welcome. I've been having fun boogieing backstage to your music and your great energy. I have to really thank you for lighting up my week.
You're very welcome. It's easy to do it for people like you because we're like-minded, right? And we hang out in another group of individuals, entrepreneurs. Some are coaches, some are a whole walk of life, and specializing in learning how to leverage technology to grow our networks. That's where we actually first met. Where are you located?
I'm in New York, in the Hudson Valley. A good way to for people who are in the states or local. If you look at New York, New York turns left. That's where we live. We're that exit. Best way to explain it. About 20 miles from West Point.
Okay, cool. Very cool. I've been to New York once or twice, not very often. I was in New York City once. I drove all the way up from Gaithersburg. I forget what state that's in.
Tennessee?
No, no, not that one. I'm probably saying the name wrong. I had to go through Baltimore to get there. So anyway, I drove up the highway going from south to north up to New York City and drove right into New York City. Drove in and around a little bit, and I just elevated my attitude to be like a New Yorker. I survived it, and I came back. It was
You do not have to elevate your attitude. You so much have a New York spirit. There's one of the things about New York that's not well known is occasionally we find amazing, helpful, intelligent, smiling people like yourself.
yeah.
It's not well known. You see the rest of it in the press.
Hey, and you know how we perceive things? One of my favorite franchises of TV network television shows is what's his name, Dick Wolf, and he's got the SUV and SVU and all sorts of stuff, but Chicago PD, all of those are his. So watching so many episodes of the Special Victims Unit show, it's always dark. All of the lighting on their show, and then you get into New York, it's just like anywhere else. Blue skies, sunshine. It was great. It's not as dark as what that show portrays it. Perceptions, right?
I think it's just like what we discover or what the lens is, which is something you and I were talking about a little bit before. We need stuff to change our lens, and people think of New York as bright lights. They think of it sometimes as a place full of danger. On the other hand, it's a place filled with Broadway and the Mets and the Yankees and culture and opera and history and that part. Yep, I agree. I so agree. He has the attitude of Manhattan. He definitely does.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that's a good thing, Eric. And thanks for being here. If you want to meet anybody who's passionate about life and pizza, and not just pizza, but that's the industry he serves, and he serves it with passion and heart and vigor, you can catch him doing live stuff all over social media. He's a really energetic individual, a wonderful individual. Met him because of what happened early in 2020. He put together a group called Megamind, and I got to be part of that. He even allowed me to be a lifer. So that's something I'm proud to be a lifer of. So tell me a little bit more about you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help.
I'm a collaborations coach, and I specialize in helping people create conversations. So I love helping leaders, COOs, direct sales leaders, entrepreneurs, trying to motivate teams to create more conversations, because we're just trying to attract business so that we're not the best kept secret. And I love helping teams of all sizes do that. And one of the fun parts is I'm a teacher's kid. So learning to earn and helping others learn to earn, so that, yeah, I'm really a geek. I love, and people laugh. They say, you shouldn't say that. And I said, no, I'm a geek in a good way. I'm a stats girl. I like helping people, become more comfortable with their numbers and create numbers that really wow them, whether it's revenue or growing a team or measuring engagement or who shows up for a presentation or an event. And lucky enough, as I took that step away from being a full-time entrepreneur to really fall into hosting live events, co-hosting live events, and actually starting to host hybrid events. And I'm not an event planner, just showing up with a goal to help an entrepreneur or an organization or a team to help them hit some of their goals from events and presentations. That's really my jam, and doing it in a safe way, because the girl from the Bronx didn't always feel safe in today's world. She didn't always understand or feel trusted or accepted or supported. You know, Eric's saying it about being a connector. People call me a connector now, and I laugh at that. I'm the introvert. I'd prefer to sit in the corner sometimes with what I call my Gloria blanket and a pen and a cup of tea, and just chill out.
I
And I
heard
think,
I heard
yep,
something yesterday that you just reminded me of. Sorry to cut you off.
no worries.
It came from Kellen. I wish she was here so she could tell us.
Yes,
Her
Kellen.
father said empty cans make a lot of noise. So people that show up that are noisy may not have a lot of content inside. So what you're talking about is you're sitting, listening, and observing, and in that quiet space, you become highly efficacious.
It sounds so much sexier the way you say it, but I really I really do. I prefer to sit back in the corner and to learn or watch or observe. I have a tendency at live events and hybrid events. I really choose my seat carefully. I
Yeah.
choose really carefully who I sit next to, where I sit. The introvert needs a window or a door usually at a live event.
I have a good friend and a partner who is he is an introvert, but he's a confident introvert, and he's a large man, and he usually sits at the back of the room, and he doesn't physically want to get engaged with any of the physical activities, and he won't, and he won't, and he won't. So don't even ask him. So if people have got to know who he is, they realize that when he says he's not going to do that, he's not going to do that. But in that quiet, gentle bear is a genius, and I'm glad he's a friend and a partner of mine because he has this really awesome power. And then sometimes it's a pain in the butt. It's his ability to remember everything. That's why it's a pain in the butt, because he'll remember everything, and he'll remind me of things I've said, and I went, okay, I'll do that. I mean, it could have been 6 months ago, 12 months ago. He still remembers that. But in his geeky introvertedness, he's a wonderful human being. He's got lots of, and he's such a giver as well. And I sense that that's you too. Not that you're a man. That's not what I'm saying, guys. But the giving side, right?
I
You're a
think
giver.
I think we all have that naturally. I think for me, I became an entrepreneur after tremendous personal loss. My amazing sister-in-law Liz was the fundraiser. She would always participate, and I would write checks for every event that she did. And in her passing, while I was holding her hand, it was kind of a wake-up call for all of us in the year 2000. And trying to figure out how to move past the loss or the grief. I started volunteering to help nonprofits. We started with the Revlon Run Walk, and that led to a half marathon, which was hysterical because before she passed, I was the smoker who had smoked for 23 years. So she turned me into the walker, the check writer, went into active mode because I didn't know any other way in the process. We met amazing people, and they're really who helped push me towards stepping into being an entrepreneur. I would never have done it, even with the business degree, even with the family pushing me towards it. I think I'd have been that employee for forever, dreaming of the side hustle or the muggle, as people like to call it.
Muggle.
Yeah, I heard muggle interesting, and I thought that was a Harry Potter word, but
Yeah, so did
one
I.
of, somebody said, yeah, they that's their word for the dream that may not necessarily become the full-time vision. If and I can really say it straight, if Liz hadn't passed away, I don't think I ever would have stepped into it. I had friends who pushed me into it and towards it.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's You got my brain circulating. Circulating, that's a new word. I just made that up. That's wow. It's the things that show up in our lives that um, it's not what happens to us in our lives. It's how we respond to that. And there's a really good formula that I was introduced to back by Jack Canfield, and he was introduced to by somebody else because he's been a student of all of this for a long time. I think he said 45 or 50 years. He's 77 for a long time, right? Started out as a teacher. And like one of my other mentors was a former teacher when he was alive and started a business. That business is like 45 years old now. And what he said is he became a teacher and took the vow of poverty because as a teacher, you don't get paid a lot of and particularly my understanding, it's even worse in your country. It's better in Canada, but it's not a very high paid job. And there's a lot of stress and things. So he still stayed a teacher, but he did it differently. He ended up learning how to help people change the way they think about what it is they do. He was he never brought this up, but when another mentor of mine introduced me to the concept we talked about earlier, that's the kaleidoscope. And if you just change, if you're looking at that kaleidoscope and you just turn it a little bit, you got a whole new perception or new direction. And that experience in your life where you had a loss, that was a kaleidoscope moment and your life changed. And what I'm excited about is in the business I'm in, I get to be somebody's catalyst to help them twist their kaleidoscope so they get a different end result. I don't do the work, never. I don't want to do the work. I want them to do the work. I want them to own it. I want them to express themselves to be the best that they can be. And that's why I'm glad we're connected, because I think we have a synergy in that space. And when I was reading your bio, because this is something I didn't know about you, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing this show, is the things I learn and the people I get to meet and get to meet them at a deeper level, is we have a common thread. And you said working with the C-suite of people as well as sellers. That's my new word for sales people. I learned it from a client just this year. It was the VP of sales. He said it, and I asked if I could leverage that, and he said, absolutely. So I see everybody as sellers. I want to help them be professional sellers so they don't feel sleazy and when they hear sell, they don't go, ooh, they're proud to be in that space. So I think that's kind of what you help people do as well, if I understood everything I was reading.
I appreciate that because I'm the teacher's kid. So mom, I'm the second generation of the lifelong learner, and grateful to have a brother who's a lifelong learner. And I think the willingness occasionally now to show up, to choose where we show up, when we show up, why we show up, not just how we show up. I think that's become the key. And I'm starting to think more about that now, as about to release a beta course on creating connections to scale. It's been baking for a while. It's for the people who are trying to do it live, the people trying to do it online, and both hybrid. It's kind of a mix. But I think my mom laughs that the teacher's kid now is interested in sharing education so others grow and learn. And I think if we don't do that, if we don't show up to serve, we don't open doors. You put up a post earlier this week about positive intelligence. I really needed to see it that specific day. And I think that's the gift of showing up, of stepping into something. And, it inspired me to make a private comment to you about positive intelligence.
Yeah.
It inspired me to make a public content about positive intelligence. And it also caused me to mention you to 4 people this week. So I think we need that stuff that lights us up, because otherwise we don't take a step. We don't step out. We don't know where to start.
Yeah, it's true. I've been on a journey and a mission because when I look back and reflect on my own journey, I find that there's been times where I've wanted to do something and I got my foot on the brake and I hold myself back. And I realized, I guess I've realized for quite a long time, but realizing it and doing something about it are 2 different things. And trying hard to do things isn't the best solution, because a good example of trying hard is you've seen flies bashing themselves up against the window. They can see the opportunity, but they just can't get through the glass. So they end up perishing, right? And if they had just changed their trajectory and maybe there was another window or a door that somebody forgot to close, they could just easily fly out. So trying harder is not the solution to making things in your life better. It doesn't mean there isn't effort and doesn't mean there isn't activity. Absolutely there is, and there needs to be consistent, persistent activity because things take time to change. But it doesn't have to be hard. And by living your life with your foot on your brake, I've really been under living. And I've realized that, I'm not getting any younger. Every day I get a little bit older. And I'm grateful that I get to be a little bit older. So I'm still ticking and I can still learn and I can still change. So I've been on a mission looking for things. And this year for me has been about at least the last third of the year is to stop the underliving. Now that sounds like really negative, and I don't mean it that way. It's recognize there's untapped potential within me that hasn't been expressed yet, and I'm looking for ways to make that happen. So I found a path and some mentors and systems to do that, and one of them is positive intelligence. That is a way to take Are you familiar with EQ?
Yes, I've been following that for years, thanks to great, talented clients in HR.
Right. So EQ is one thing. Where the disconnect for me, because I work in that space as well. But how do we elevate somebody's EQ? Because if you have somebody that's a low EQ person and you have somebody who's a high EQ person, but they're a director and they're forceful and they're aggressive, they may quickly say something that crushes that low EQ person. And if they're an employee on staff or a salesperson you want to hit numbers, you may have lost them for the 4 or 5 hours or a day and a half or a week. What's the impact financially to your business? Because if you're paying them or if they're showing up and representing you in that mindset, what's the message and energy they're leaving? So I was looking for ways to elevate that, and positive intelligence is the way to do that. It's the how to change and elevate the EQ level. So there's 10 saboteurs and 5 sages, and we work to get people to identify what their 10 saboteurs are and to leverage their sages. So that's what you saw when I was posting that.
That is fantastic.
So
I
it's
think
another tool in my kit.
what I love about it is you're reminding me the thing that I kept getting stuck on was the energy, how to plug the energy leaks, whether they were energy leaks from live networking, whether they were energy leaks from showing up to serve, energy leaks as an adult caregiver. It's now my brother's full-time responsibility. I'm his backup. But for me, I was really grateful for coaches who suggested human design, not something I looked at immediately. It took 4 times. The first coach introduced it to me as I was planning my first retreat. Second coach introduced it to me as I was looking for a business coach. The third coach introduced it to me from an intuition and a money mindset perspective. That one really caught my attention. And I was grateful that an accountability partner, a peer, another entrepreneur, we mention it at the end of an accountability session. So human design is helping me plug my energy leaks, understand why they cause. It's kind of interesting for the teacher's kid to learn about chakras and energy centers and to learn what helps me become more aware or what motors. And I think it's really helping me become a better coach, a better family member, a better human. And not necessarily for everybody, but Jeffrey Davis had mentioned it, who I've been following for years for Tracking Wonder. And I'm really finding a lot of comfort in human design, in the reminder that the struggle that I felt internally isn't just something that shows up on a human design chart. So it's kind of interesting when you talk about that, Phil, and I really appreciate it because the emotional intelligent clients from HR, they were amazing at their annual conferences of talking about emotional intelligence. And the teacher's kid is like, I kept writing notes about it, but I'd record it once a year or when there was an amazing speaker.
Right.
And I'd follow people, but I didn't understand. It's kind of like a light force. And I think that's the part that I really caught in your post. I was recovering from the booster that day in a booster fog, and your post was just kind of We need those lights and somebody to turn them on into tunnels. I think it's one of the things I really appreciate about our conversation about kaleidoscope and lights and
Yeah.
lenses. If we don't run into people who help us light things up, we stay stuck in the mud, in quicksand, outside of well springs, and we don't feel the support that we need to take steps outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah. I, I have a mentor that said something. What he said to me was when those obstacles, whatever they are, like the most common one right now that we're still involved with is the pandemic. But it could be the financial crunch we had in, what was it, 07, 08? And he said, these kind of things jar your preserves. So when I say that to you, what is that? How would you define that, or how do you feel about that?
So the real deep part about that, in 2008, I was the kid who was the finance major and the accounting minor. And when you talk about 2008, that was the year I really learned as an entrepreneur to start tapping into my intuition. I had been ignoring it. And somehow that summer in 2008, I was inspired to move all of my financial investments into something 100% safe. I never shared it with family and friends. And then a month later, the market dropped. That's what really got me paying attention to the preserves, as you call them, to our reserves. There's something in there that tells you your spidey sense, your intuition, whether it's this is a good connection, this is a good opportunity. There's something that encourages you, and ignoring that. You can call it faith-based, you can call it intuition, you can call it whatever you like, but I love what you said. It's about preserving.
There's two attitudes that he talked about, and you did one of the ones that's this kind of stuff jars your preserves and gets you to think differently and act upon it and take action. That's one way where it jars your preserves. It wakes you up. The other one is people hunker down and hope like hell that this situation will blow over and they can lift off the lid and everything will be okay. And that's not that I was going to say it's not reality. It absolutely is their reality, right? It is theirs, but it's not. It's what you do with what happens that makes a difference, and that's what the most important thing is. And the formula I haven't shared, what I circle back to, is E plus R equals O. That's the formula that Canfield was telling us about. And it's in his book, The Success Principles. E plus R equals O. The event plus your response equals your outcome. So if you're looking at your outcome and you're, oh, woe is me, things are shitty, things are bad. Okay. If you take 100% responsibility for your life, then you have a hope in changing things. If you're giving up the responsibility to somebody else, you're not in control of your own life. So you can't change the E plus the R if you don't own it. So fits right into my language. And if we pay attention and take responsibility, what are the signals? What are the signs that we can change because of the outcome we have that we're not happy with? And if we're happy with it, we don't have to change anything, right? If we're happy with the outcome. But if we're not, change the kaleidoscope a little bit.
I love what you said, because it reminds me that thinking of ways to preserve can inspire you to hunker down and reserve, or it can catapult you someplace else where you find a wellspring, you find other answers, you find other solutions, you reach out for help. That's the thing that I'm really grateful to have learned. I didn't know years ago how to ask for help early enough. Mom
Yeah.
said it. Now I really appreciate it, whether it's asking for introductions, whether it's asking people just to help. People like Amazing Kellen, who you introduced me to, who's a Bryn person. Happy birthday week, Kellen.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you go to her birthday show?
I was unable to because family calls.
Right.
And those are the calls we have to answer quickest.
Exactly. So I brought up your website here because this kind of shows people what we're doing. And I try to keep these to about 30 minutes, and boy, this has just flown by so quickly. But before we drop off and say goodbye and let everybody get on with their day, just tell me a little bit more about Be Visible Shifts, Make Space to Emerge. Be there, be visible.
Be Visible started out as a retreat in 2018. It was a hybrid retreat, live and on Zoom. One day was combined. Chance to network, chance to learn to earn, chance to recharge, refuel, find something that you needed, find safe support from talented experts. And it's become something that I'm continuing now virtually until we can have another hybrid event. So Be Visible Shifts has been ongoing. And our next series, it's a multi-day retreat. And it starts again on February 9th. And it'll be February 9th through February 12th. Phil is going to join us.
Yeah.
We'll see. Woohoo! Phil is going to join us. Michael Roach. We're going to have energy. And it's kind of divided into a couple of sections. The part I'd love to talk to you about is on February 9th. It's a day to join me complimentary. Pop in for open houses on Zoom and on Clubhouse. Meet some great connections. Play bingo. Play a scavenger hunt. To help discover new resources. And then the rest of the time, the next day is alignment day, kind of line stuff up for teams and leaders. And the day after that is called it's a cultivation day. And the last day is an illuminations day. And I'd love for you to join us and join me as my guest on BeVisible.Solutions. You'll see a complimentary thing to plug in and to join us. So join us then, or join us at a Be Visible with Mel open house, which I host monthly.
Cool. So there's some insight and information on how you can hang out and learn from this lovely lady. I want to thank you for being on the show today. There's your website for people who can't see the small one. We got the big one there for you to have a peek at it and get connected with my friend. And Melanie Richards on LinkedIn is how you show up, right? So if they want to find you there.
Yep. And please come hang out with us for networking. And Phil's joining us for Be Visible Shifts. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that. And thanks for having me today, Phil.
Hey, what an honor to have you here and get to learn a little bit more about you. And 30 minutes just goes by really, really fast.
I'm toasting you across the miles, Phil.
All right. Appreciate that. I'll see you in a bit.
Thanks. Be well. Have a magnificent day.
You too. Wow, wasn't that great? Well, before we leave, I just want to remind you of this. The U is large on purpose because you truly are wonderful and you are unique. One of my mentors, the one that talked about this stuff, these kind of things, jars your preserves, is the same gentleman who came up with this and get us to think about how uniquely wonderful we are, you are. Go act like it. If you, again, know of somebody who is got a story you want to share with the world, make an introduction to me with we can get them on the show. And if you want to take me up on the business scorecard, my email is phil@coachphil.ca. Wherever you are, have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the week, and we'll see you next week on the Business Renovator.
I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking